Hello there. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to use Buffer as a tool to curate content. There's certainly other ways to go about it, but the tools and the specific features within Buffer that I'm going to show you should help you see why it is that I chose Buffer specifically for this versus something like Hootsuite or another social media scheduling tool. So first of all, we have this content queue, which is usually where the app defaults to when you open it up. And the queue is a unique feature of Buffer that allows you to basically add posts based on predetermined times. You can also switch to custom times, kind of like Hootsuite. But what I really love about Buffer is the ability to have this queue feature, because then when you go to the scheduling area, you can determine what those specific times are. You know, if it varies by day, you can add times, you can take away times. But what's really most useful about this is their optimal timing tool, which actually picks the best time to post based on historic data gathered from your accounts. So you might see different posts on the internet that say, you know, the best time to post on Twitter, or the best time to post on Facebook, or even more generally, the best time to post on social media. While those posts are very well intentioned, ultimately it comes down to you and your audience. Your time zone is going to have an effect on that. Your industry is going to have an effect on that. And even just you personally are going to have an effect on that. So it's best to use a tool that is based on data and takes, actionable advice from that. So this tool allows you to pick which profile, depending on what's hooked up to Buffer. So you could do it for Facebook, you could do it for LinkedIn. I'm doing it for Twitter, and I post 5 times a day based on the content that I'm adding to my queue, which is just different articles that I'm adding for curation purposes, meaning articles that I haven't myself written, but that I want to share with my audience that I think might be relevant to them. I do post more than this on Twitter per day. It's probably closer to maybe 9 or even 10 times a day. Those additional posts are basically blog posts from my website. They might be something that I'm sharing that I wrote for a client, or just something random that happens during the course of the day. It might not even be business related. So, it's kind of up to you. I would say 4 is a good minimum to start with. It's going to be a lot of content that you're creating, or that you're curating rather, to get to that point. But trust me, it's worth it. It will help your Twitter grow exponentially. So let's go back here. And so now this, if you go to the content tab and then you go to content inbox, one really easy way to kind of almost automatically curate content is by adding RSS feeds. So I added 10 right here, all different stuff related to digital marketing, social media, blogging, because those are the things that my audience is most interested in. So you can add up to 15. Looks like right now I have 5 left. You can easily add those feeds here. And then after you've added the feeds, you can see all the latest posts. So, it's RSS based. That's where it's grabbing these posts from. And then if you wanted to add them to your queue, you just click the add button. Maybe you add some sort of related hashtag. Maybe you add their Twitter handle so that they can see that you're sharing their content. And luckily, Buffer will tell you if you're going over the limit, depending on which account you're using. And you can also add the picture based on whatever the feature image was. So it's really useful as far as just having everything together. This RSS feed makes it super easy to curate content, because it's literally pushing the content almost straight into your queue. So that's one really great feature of Buffer besides the optimal timing tool. And then again, I'm just going to show you kind of what the queue looks like after you've filled it out. And you can easily drag and drop, move stuff around if it's important. Here's a post I actually have scheduled, so you can see how that kind of looks compared to the curated content. And as you can see, I've definitely planned a lot ahead, but this is not necessarily a lot of work. This is just me curating content over time. So here's one of the main things that make Buffer so useful, and it's their Chrome extension. And so by installing this, you can easily add articles to your queue as you're reading them on the internet. So one thing that I do to find articles that I want to share to Buffer, besides using this nifty RSS feed feature, is I like this tool called Nuzzle. And you sign up with your Twitter username, and what it does is it curates all of these different articles that people you're following are sharing. And, hopefully you followed some people within your industry so that articles related to your industry are shared often and make it to this list. If not, this tool might not be as useful. But you can kind of see here, it gives some data about how many people are sharing it. It shows a picture, it shows the title, kind of the first paragraph here, and who it's coming from. This is just what it looks like in email form. And so what I do is I opt in for a news digest once a day. It comes in the morning, and it just shares the top stories from the past 24 hours. So if you wanted more up-to-date information, you just go to nuzzle.com, or you could wait for this email to, again, literally push content to you. So what I want to show you next is how to use this Buffer browser extension to add an article out here in the wild to Buffer. So, you can see the icons match here. It's like this 3 stacked paper sort of thing, or whatever it is. And it says select a social account above to continue. You can select multiple accounts, but if you're sharing to Twitter, I wouldn't also necessarily do it to Facebook, because if you have the hashtags and the handles, it's going to look weird. You can do them at the same time, though, like this. So you can add separate formatting. So that was it doing. Okay, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to do Twitter. So again, it's just like if you're adding that RSS feed item to your queue, you just, add some hashtags, add, if you want, you should, but if you want, add the Twitter handle and add the picture, and then boom, you just add to queue, and it's done. And then they'll give you a little green success notification, then it'll get out of the way. So that is basically how to curate content with Buffer. Hopefully you learned something new today, and hopefully I just made your life a little bit easier. Stay tuned for the next lesson.